Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today, it is my sincere honor and pleasure to get to talk about a fragrance that I honestly never thought I'd smell. It is basically thanks to the kindness and generosity of one of you who had sent me this decant. And this is a very rare, hard to come by fragrance that came out in 2018 from the house of Areej Doré, my good friend Russian Adam. And the fragrance is called Malik Taif, and it is an extrait. And I put a little bit of a dent in here. I've worn it to bed a couple times since I've got it, and it is my scent of the day today. And it's been on my skin now for about 9 hours. 9-hour dry down here on my left hand. And I just did a fresh spray probably 20 minutes ago. You can still see the sheen. Look at that, because it's an extrait. It's unbelievable. Oh, this fragrance is an experience. So, before we get into it though, I do want to say, in case you notice, I have Eugene's t-shirt on, and I've been into this rose kick lately, because yesterday I wore Eugene's fragrance, which is from the house of Les Abstraits, Le Dauler Exquise. Look how much of a dent I put in this decant he sent me. I love this scent. Luckily, he sent me another decant, so I'll get to continue to wear it. But I do plan on picking up a full bottle. So back-to-back rose fragrance, and I'm wearing his shirt in in homage to his beautiful fragrance he created. And just real quick, before we get into Malik Taif, I will tell you I wore this as my scent of the day yesterday, twice in a week, which I never do, almost never do. And I wore it to work, and I'm in a new office, basically. New people around me. Some people I knew, but new people mostly. And one of the guys that's new to me came up to me yesterday and said, hey, I have to just tell you that whatever fragrance you're wearing, it reminds me of my father from back in Morocco. He gave me this little vial of very rare and expensive rose oil, and I cherish it. I almost never wear it because it reminds me of my dad. What are you wearing? And so I pulled up the website and showed him it was Eugene's fragrance, and he said, this is your friend's fragrance? He created this? I said, yes. He said, wow, he has a real hit on his hands. And he's probably going to buy a bottle, honestly, once the website's up and running. So anyways, I've been on a rose kick lately. So Malik Taif. There's an amazing story behind this perfume, but I want to read you, before we get into it, the information from the Areej Doré website. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the Taif rose, the star of this composition. And Taif rose, just so you guys know, is my favorite type of rose. So this is a true, like I said, experience and a joy and an honor to get to wear this today. Okay, so first of all, let's go to the Russian Adam Areej Doré website. So here's what they say on the description of Malik Taif. It says, Malik Taif, or King of Taif, is not your regular oud, rose, and musk concoction, named so merely as a ploy to insinuate luxury. Rather, each ingredient used in this blend extends far beyond its typical state. Each component is a true legend. While it is true that there are very few ingredients used in this perfume, each one captures a whole world of intricacies and delights. Each one brings its own special, individual tale that contributes to the lingering, majestic story that is Malik Taif. This composition features a blend of rose oils, including a high dose of the Queen of Roses, the finest royal Taif rose, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what that means, royal grade, and the freshest Indian rose distilled only a few days before the perfume was blended. Russian Adam left me a WhatsApp message yesterday, by the way. I hope it's okay that I'm sharing this, Adam, but he said that he personally flew to India to secure this certain amount of Indian rose distilled oil for this blend. He personally flew to India to make sure what he was getting was what he was expecting to get. And I mean, this is one of, all right, let's continue reading before we get into this. Royal Taif Rose. The name royal here is not an empty title. Okay, so maybe he is going to talk about it. But rather it is given such a grand label for several reasons. The Royal Taif rose oil used in this perfume was distilled especially for Areej Doré. In the middle of the Saudi Arabian desert, in the city of Taif, this type of rose resides. It is distilled only 1 month a year, and as it turns out, it's April. April is when they make the Taif rose harvest for the entire year, and that's it. According to a traditional method with a truly unique twist requested by Areej Doré. Unlike regular Taif rose, the royal variety is collected before dawn solely by female workers. It is well known that women's fingers are very soft and gentle, which helps to preserve some of the most delicate aromatic molecules within the flowers. Moreover, unlike other rose oils, Royal Taif was distilled only using the petals of the flowers. Again, separated from the greenery by female workers only. This extra attention to detail negatively impacts the yield of an oil and can hugely increase its cost. However, the final fragrance has unmatchable quality, putting it a step above any other pure rose oil. Its beauty, refinement, and liveliness of aroma makes it truly royal. And if you've been watching my interview session, by the way, if you haven't watched my interview sessions, they're probably some of the best stuff I've ever put up on my channel, ever. Go to the playlist that I created and just go to interviews, and you'll see the 2 Russian Adam interviews. In one of those interviews, he tells this story about how he commissioned this, rose plot landowner in Taif to use only female employees to pick the petals and remove the petal from the bulb that holds the petals, so you don't get that greenery. You just literally, it's like falling into a bed of Taif rose petals. It's absolutely beautiful. Then he talks about the Indian rose. Being a delicate flower, a rose loses its fragrance rapidly once it is picked from a field. Similarly, a rose oil may lose its most fragile notes if stored for too long. Freshly distilled rose oil is renewed for its superior aroma. And so, in order to ensure the preservation of every intricate, exquisite note of this purest Indian rose oil, again, distilled exclusively for Areej Doré, it was used only a few days after its distillation. Precious pure rose oil was personally collected from India by Russian Adam after the distillation. Okay, so he's going into it. It was then cured by him in a traditional camel leather bottles, according to an ancient tradition, in order to remove the remaining moisture. An incredible amount, nearly 2 kilograms of this fresh, pure, precious oil was used for Malik al Taif. Current fragrance regulations in certain countries do not allow the use of rose oil in quantities over 4% in any given blend. In this perfume, however, where the aim was a rose-centered composition, Russian Adam used around 40% of pure rose oil. The result offers a truly unrivaled level in terms of olfactory refinement, satisfaction, and perfection. Oud oils. There are 4 types of natural and pure oud used in Malik al Taif, hailing from 3 different countries, Cambodia, Laos, and India. A touch of very sweet Cambodian oud and highly animalic wild Laotian oud enhance the base of this composition. 2 varieties of classical Indian oud, both with leathery and smoky character, reside in the heart, which is sweetened with saffron. The combination of the finest rose oils and intensely animalic oud brings to life an unparalleled olfactory experience. It may be a classic combination, yet, using ingredients of high quality that is truly fit for a royalty, it is an olfactory journey on a whole nother level. And finally, Musk Absolute. A one-of-a-kind, dynamic, exclusive absolute from legally harvested wild Siberian deer musk was created in Moscow by one of the perfume gurus, especially for Russian Adam. It is the first ever deer musk absolute that we have encountered due to the difficult production process, extremely low yield, rarity of raw materials, and nearly prohibitive high cost. Shockingly, it came out almost solid in texture and pink in color. Unlike a typical maceration of deer musk, the absolute contains a deeper character, richer body, and its strength is explosive. Because of the potency of this ingredient, only a small amount was used, so that in the final composition during the dry down, it makes itself evident as a song instead of a shout. Okay, so the disclosure is the perfume does contain an animal product, an absolute derived from illegally obtained wild Siberian deer musk grains. Okay, so let's talk about this composition. So first of all, we kind of got into the Taif rose a little bit, but It grows only in the desert, basically in the middle of a desert. There's this area in Saudi Arabia where these roses almost like miraculously grow, and it's called the Taif rose. I think let's see, did I write the scientific name down? Yes, Rose Damascena trigentipetala. Rose Damascena trigentipetala is the scientific name for the Taif rose. And Taif roses are unique because they actually have 30 petals of differing sizes. And they're picked every April before dawn because when the sun comes out, it kind of draws the moisture out of the petals. So they want the petals as moist as possible. So when they do their distillation, they can get as much yield as they can from them. And so it was mentioned that there are two types of rose oil used here. The Taif rose from Saudi Arabia and the Indian rose. And you really smell that 40% composition because this is going to be, first of all, unlike any modern rose fragrance you've ever smelled. The high concentration here, 40%, is unheard of in modern compositions, right? And what it basically does is it's almost like you're smelling multiple fragrances because it's meant to be a rose-centered composition, okay? And what I did is I took some of the real Taif rose Otto that Russian Adam gave to me. He also gave me these cool little Areej Doré blotters. And I put a little bit on the end. I don't know if you can see this. I did this maybe an hour and a half ago. And oh, the Taif rose is just my favorite rose. It's so beautiful. Oh, and so this is the real Taif rose Otto. And you can really smell that ingredient inside of this perfume. And the reason I say it's almost like smelling multiple fragrances, multiple compositions blended together in harmony is because of the fact that there's other things going on. As mentioned, you definitely get the deer musk. There's a little bit of animalic opening from the oud. You know, it's almost like the opening oud animalic facets are just there to kind of show the power of the real oud, right? They want you to know you're smelling the real oud, the real deer musk, but it never gets in the way of the star of the show, which the star of the show is the royal grade King Taif rose. And that rose just takes center stage. It's absolutely stunning. It just takes control of the composition. And so for someone that's interested in kind of breaking a scent down, this is going to be a very tough one to break down. Very tough one to give a review. Remember, this is just an initial impression. This is the first full wear I've ever given it. And, you know, the reason it's going to be tough is because even though there aren't all these ingredients coming and going, there's not 1,000 ingredients, there's so much going on. From the oud to the musk, you know, to the benzoin in the base, to the Mysore sandalwood in the base, to the saffron. There's that little saffron to add just a little bit of sweetness, I think. There's this ambery touch in the dry down. It's a beautiful composition, absolutely stunning. And, you know, if you would compare this, and I'm going to because I've mentioned a couple rose fragrances, and there are other houses that talk about the expensive quality of the ingredients that they use. I mean, you could talk about something like Roja, you could talk about, you know, something like Mason Francis Kirkjohn, some of these niche houses, Creed, that charges, you know, more for per mil, 30 or 50 ml bottle, whatever Malik Al Taif was when it came out. You know, per mil, you're going to pay just as much for some of these Creeds and Rojas. There's no way they're going to give you the quality like you're getting here, right? Because they're limited. They're not going to put more than 4% of the rose oil in the composition. Now, there is one that I will mention here. And so here's the Rose de Taif composition from Paris Monte Carlo. And this is the extrait version. So the extrait version came out in 2015. The Eau de Parfum came out in 2013, okay? The Eau de Parfum is shite. I will tell you that right now. I've smelled it. It's absolutely terrible. I wouldn't recommend it at all. It smells like cheap fake rose oil. This one, on the other hand, does not smell cheap. It smells like they actually did use the real Taif rose. However, when comparing them, the opening to this smells like you're getting more, you're getting almost like this artificial lemon put on top of the rose, right? So you have the rose, and it smells like Paris Monte Carlo tried to infuse some lemoniness to make it smell like you're smelling the Taif rose, and I think you are. I think there is real Taif rose in here. It's actually mixed with Damask Rose Absolute, and because it's an Absolute, it makes the composition go a little bit darker, but the lemon and the geranium at the top, and they did mix this rose with a cheaper geranium flower, makes it seem a little brighter, a little bit more peppery, a little bit more spicy, if you will. There is some nutmeg and stuff like that. And there's the synthetic musk that you're used to smelling. And so when you compare the two, it's a no-brainer. I mean, Malik Taif wins every single time for me. You know, it's a superior composition, hands down. But would I buy a bottle at $500 of this? No. Since I already have this, probably not. Would I buy a bottle at a couple $100s? Absolutely. I mean, this is stunning stuff. This goes for $350 for 50 ml. For $350 for 30 ml, this is a steal. You know, and so if I didn't have this, would I go for this? You bet your bottom dollar. Absolutely, 100%. Hands down, I would. But there are other compositions from Areej Doré that I think I would like full bottles of first, especially since I already have this Taif Rose Extrait bottle. And, you know, I would much rather own something like Oud Zen or Antiquity maybe, or something like that, just because that's more, as beautiful as this is, and it is absolutely stunning. It's probably one of the best rose fragrances I've ever smelled, maybe the best. If I had no rose fragrances and I could find a bottle and it wasn't marked up to $1,000, because I've seen some crazy prices on eBay, I would love to have a bottle. Now, let me continue to walk you through kind of the, what the rose smells like in Malik Taif, because I don't feel like I did a good enough job giving you the full scent profile, the full picture, if you will. So the Taif rose, while it's in its dominating stage, the first 3 hours or maybe even 4 hours, it just dominates the composition. I mean, it really just takes control, if you will. And what makes the Taif rose so different from smelling like Bulgarian rose or Russian rose or something like that is the Taif rose has this, almost like this lemony, waxy quality about it. And remember how I was saying with Paris Monte Carlo, it almost feels like that lemony quality is imposed on top of the rose. Like the perfumer tried to make you feel like you're smelling more of a Taif rose when you're really not, with that extra lemoniness. Here, it's completely effortless. In Malik Taif, you just smell the most beautiful lemony Taif rose, waxy, you know, Taif rose that you've ever smelled. At least that I've ever smelled. Other than the real thing, I mean, and this is not a fragrance composition. This is just the real rose oil, Otto. Oh, it's beautiful. But for a composition with it being used like this, it is absolutely unbelievable. And if you ever look up pictures of the Taif rose, it has this, the center of the flower have these like yellow bits dead smack in the middle. I'm not sure what the scientific name for it is. I'm sure someone can leave it in the comments. But in the very center of the rose, the Taif rose have these yellow, like, you know, almost like yellow, like stems coming out of the center of the flower. And picture that lemoniness, that yellow color is what the lemon in the Taif rose smells like. You get that white, pink, purple with that yellow lemoniness from the flower. mixed with the real deer musk, which, I mean, the real deer musk, once you've smelled real deer musk in other compositions, and I have from Areej Doré has done some amazing deer musk fragrances. Siberian musk is one of my favorites, probably my favorite. Bortnikov did Musk Habib, which is fantastic. And so once you smell the real thing like that, it's very hard to go back to synthetic musk. There are some synthetic musks that can maybe recreate that fuzzy, furry, you know, pillowy, it's almost like you're taking your head and you're just laying it on the most beautiful, soft, just, you know, bed of Taif roses supported by the most beautiful natural musk you've ever imagined, right? That's kind of the feeling that the roses give you. It just surrounds you like you're just sticking your nose in just a bag of Taif roses. But the musk and the oud, and after the first couple hours, 2 or 3 hours in, maybe 3 or 4 hours in even, is when the Taif rose finally starts to kind of take a back seat. It is relentless. You know, the Taif rose top of this is absolutely relentless. Probably because it's 40%. I mean, and it's an extra version, but it just goes on and on and on. It's absolutely beautiful. But then you do start to get that Areej Doré underlying feel of the fragrance, right? So you start to get some of the oud come through. You start to get some of the real musk to take more control of the fragrance, if you will. And in the dry down, it almost smells like you're smelling real ambergris. There's no real ambergris listed in the composition. I'm sure if it was in there, he would have added it to the notes listing. But the deer musk absolute somehow gives me the feel of ambergris, that animalic, sparkly, you know, shiny vibe. It's so good. It's an absolutely, I mean, lost for words fragrance, right? The other interesting thing, now that I'm smelling it here on the fresh spray that I did within the last hour or so, is on top of that lemony, there's this lemony freshness with the Taif rose, right? But it also has this honey-like smell, right? So if you think of the land of milk and honey, right? The land of plenty, the land of milk and honey. This is something I would expect to smell on, you know, a sultan, a sheikh, a leader of a country, you know, someone that has access to the absolute best of the best of the best, you know, something that there's 200 bottles made for the entire world, and, you know, one of them was made for him. That's the kind of man I imagine wearing this. And it just has that, you know, the name Royal Taif Rose, Royal stands out to me because it really does have this royalty vibe to it. It has this, you know, almost like you're, you know, I don't even know how to describe it. But it's almost like you're smelling a fragrance that should be worn by royalty. Okay, if that makes any sense. That's the impression in my mind when I smell this that it gives me. The other factor, so there's that honeyed. So I mentioned the fresh lemony aspect of the Taif rose with this almost like honeyed vibe, right? So imagine when you put your head on that pillow of Taif roses, it's like it just flows, you know? It's this honey-like flow coming down the mountain, right? That's the smell that you get from the Taif rose. Finally, you get this tea-like vibe. So imagine you're smelling like fresh tea in a bag or in a can, you know, the freshest tea you could imagine. With that lemoniness and that rose, it's just absolutely stunning. Absolutely, unbelievably stunning. Composition-wise, unbelievable. And I think this is the best Taif rose composition I've ever come across. But again, I have a problem because I already have this. And so since there are other Areej Doré fragrances that I want to prioritize, I wouldn't put this one at the top for me, as much as I love it. And also because I have so many other rose fragrances. I have Lyric Man, I have Lyric Woman I'm about to do early impressions on. I don't have a full bottle yet, but I have decants of that. I've got Actor by Azzaro. I have Aramis 900, which I wore to bed last night, and it's absolutely stunning with that old school Aramis Castoreum, you know, animalic vibe with the rose. I mean, there's so many rose fragrances that when I think of I could wear, this would be number one. But would I pay $500 a bottle to get it to number one? Now, no, I don't think I would. Would I pay $500 a bottle for Antiquity? Maybe. You know what I mean? Or Oud Zen? Maybe. Those are some I really want to add to the collection. So this is on the list. It's just not at the very top of the list, if that makes sense. But if you were a Taif Rose fiend, if Taif Rose was your favorite ingredient, that kind of thing, this should be at the top of your list. There's nothing better that I've smelled in this genre. The Real Deer Musk is outside of this world. You know, it's something that I can't describe it. The Real Deer Musk, the Real Oud, the high quality, the quality of materials of this is, you know, it's something that a frag head can only dream of. You know, this is a composition that frag heads dream about, because the quality of the ingredients just seems like, again, mountaintop. I've used the expression before. There's very little places to go once you've gotten to the Areej Doré, Russian Adam mountaintop. You can go to the other side of the mountain and you can graze over here in this plain, and you can go to the other side of the mountain and you can graze over here, but the mountaintop is right here. You know, once you discover these, it's very hard to go back to stuff like this. I mean, if I found a bottle of this, would I sell this or trade this for a bottle of Malik Al Taif? Absolutely, I would, in a heartbeat. In an absolute heartbeat, I would. But, you know, it's, since I'm just one person, I'm not sponsored or anything. Russian Adam didn't even send me this. A friend sent me this. So it's very hard when you have a certain amount of income to move around to different pieces of the fragrance puzzle. But if you want the ultimate Taif Rose fragrance, here you go. Good luck finding it, though. That's the thing. There's a limited amount of bottles, and the ones that I've seen pop up are outrageously priced. If I could find one for a fair price, I'd love to have it in the collection. So I hope that gives you an idea of kind of how it smells. It is the most beautiful rose composition for the first 4 or 5 hours, and then the dry down is one of the most beautiful musk, oud, benzoin, you know, amber, that Areej Doré DNA, Oriental DNA dry down. It's just a stunning fragrance. So if you have experience with Malik Al Taif, I'd love to know your feedback, your opinion. Ditto for the House of Areej Doré. You know, I've absolutely fallen in love with this house in the last year or so, and also getting to know Russian Adam has been one of the biggest joys of this journey for me. He is just an amazing human being. And he offers so much to real fragrance lovers, so much that we can smell now because of his creations that, you know, before we got stuff like Tom Ford Oud Wood, or, you know, him and Bortnikov and these kind of houses really came in and said, no, this is what oud smells like. This is what musk smells like. You know, this is what real Mysore sandalwood smells like. This is what real Taif Rose smells like. That kind of thing. You know, they've given that gift to the fragrance world. So thank you for the creation, Russian Adam. I think it's an amazing one. And, you know, I'm late to the party as usual, but it's on the list. If I ever find a bottle decently priced, you'll see it in the collection. So I know you've got the new Attar, Indian Attar collection coming out soon. I can't wait to do videos on those. should be here in the next couple weeks, month at the latest. And so you guys will hear more about the house of Areej the Doré very soon. But I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the support as always. Thank you, Eddie, for sending this to me. This has been an absolute joy to wear today. So thanks for watching, everybody. Cheers. Hope to see your faces in the comments, and I'll see you again tomorrow with another video. Bye, guys.